We often hear stories about epic destruction. But what happens after? What happens when a nation is shattered, its people scattered, and its spirit is just broken? Well, that's what we're diving into today with the book of Ezra. It's a story about rebuilding, but not just a temple. It's about rebuilding an entire identity from the ground up. So, let's get into it.
Okay, so to really wrap our heads around this story, you have to feel the timeline. In 586 BC, everything is just gone. The temple gets destroyed, the people are dragged into exile, and they're there for 70 years. I mean, think about that. That's a whole lifetime back then. You've got grandparents telling their grandkids stories about a home they've never even laid eyes on. And then, somehow, against all odds, by 516 BC, the temple is standing again. That huge gap, that long silence, that's where the real drama of this story is forged.
All right, so every good comeback story has to start at rock bottom, right? And that's exactly where we begin, a kingdom in ruins. We're talking about the massive problem of a scattered people and a home that's been completely destroyed. This is the hole they have to climb out of. I mean, it's honestly hard for us to even imagine this level of devastation. It wasn't just losing your capital city. It was losing the very heartbeat of your faith, the center of your connection to God. The temple was gone. God's people weren't even in the promised land anymore. From any human perspective, you just look at this and say, game over. That's the end of their story. It was completely and utterly hopeless.
But it wasn't the end. And this is where the whole story turns on a dime. We're moving into the first major act, the return. The seemingly impossible mission to go home and rebuild the temple, literally from the dust.
So how does this impossible comeback even start? Well, it comes from the last place you would ever expect. It's not some great Jewish leader who gets the ball rolling. Nope, it's Cyrus, the pagan king of Persia. After he conquers Babylon, he does something totally wild. He issues a decree that says the Jews can go home and rebuild their temple. The story literally kicks off with this political miracle, showing that God's plan can work through anyone, even a foreign emperor.
A king's decree is one thing, but it's just words on paper, right? People have to actually act on it. And wow, did they ever. We're talking about roughly 50,000 people. That's the size of a small city. They packed up their entire lives, everything they knew in Babylon, to make this long, hard journey to a home most of them had only heard stories about. This wasn't some top-down government project. It was a grassroots movement, all fueled by the faith of thousands of ordinary families.
As you can see, though, this path to rebuilding was, it was rocky. It was not a straight line. And notice the very first thing they do. They rebuild the altar. Before they even have walls for protection, they prioritize worship. That tells you everything. When the foundation was finally laid, you get this incredible, emotional scene. The younger generation is cheering, but the elders who remember the first grander temple, they're weeping. And of course, the work gets sabotaged. Enemies pop up, and the whole project grinds to a halt for years until the prophets Haggai and Zechariah get the people fired up again to finally finish the job.
And so, there it is, 70 years. 70 years after it was turned to rubble, the temple stood again. An entire generation had lived and died waiting for this very moment. It was the fulfillment of an almost impossible promise, a truly massive achievement. So the temple's finished. Mission accomplished, right? Time to roll the credits? Well, not so fast. The building was done, but was the real mission actually complete?
The answer to that question was a big, resounding no, because the story now pivots away from stone and mortar to something much, much deeper. This is phase 2, the spiritual restoration of the people themselves.
And for this next phase, God sends a totally different kind of leader. This isn't a governor or an engineer. It's Ezra. And who is Ezra? He's a scribe. His expertise wasn't in construction. It was in instruction. His mission was to rebuild the people's hearts and minds with the law of God.
And you can really see the two phases of restoration side by side here. That first return was all about the mission to rebuild the physical temple, but Ezra's return, decades later, was about teaching the law, focusing on spiritual renewal. It's really the difference between building a house and building a home.
And what Ezra finds when he arrives is just devastating. The people who had returned to the promised land had compromised. They were falling back into the exact same sins that led to their exile generations before. Rebuilding the temple was completely meaningless if they were just going to repeat the past. So what does Ezra do? He doesn't just give a lecture. He weeps, he prays, and he leads the entire community in this heartbreaking moment of public confession. It's a painful but absolutely necessary spiritual reform, a process to turn the people's hearts back to God and preserve their identity.
So what's the takeaway from all this? When we put all these pieces together, what can we learn from this ancient story about building an architecture of hope? Well, when you boil it all down, Ezra leaves us with a few core truths. 1. God keeps his promises, even through the most unlikely people. 2. Real restoration has to start with worship. It's not just about building walls. 3. And this is a big one, opposition isn't always a sign of failure. Often, it's a sign that you're doing something that actually matters. And above all, it drives home the point that what happens inside of us is so much more important than any structure we can build on the outside.
And this is the final, powerful idea at the very heart of Ezra's story. God's ultimate goal isn't just about fixing our circumstances. He doesn't just rebuild what was lost. He renews what was broken. And that is the deepest, truest form of restoration.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. It really helps us.